Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai, and welcome to Frogs on Friday, our New Zealand market update. On today's show, is your business equipped with the right talent to navigate uncertain times? It's changing all the time. We're joined by Frog Recruitment Principal Consultant Mark Smith to discuss the importance of hiring the right staff in an unpredictable market. Also on today's show, we'll talk about, is New Zealand's capital finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? We'll go through some of the hot jobs across New Zealand, as well as opportunities for working holiday makers in Australia and the UK. And we'll finish off with some social media insights on how employees would react if their company mandated a full-time return to the office. So let's jump into Mahi Media. So for this week's Mahi Media, I thought I'd show a bit of araha for Te Whanganui-a-Tara Wellington, because boy, you have been copping it. It's been a tough year across the country with businesses and individuals battling the effects of inflation and the resulting costs of the resulting cost of living crisis, redundancies, and the return of the brain drain. Even the All Blacks have gone a bit wobbly. Add to that the government directives to the public sector to cut costs and return to the office mean that this perfect storm has hit Wellington the hardest. At the 1st of October, the number of public sector cuts totaled 6,843, with possibly more to come. But just as the OCR announcement buoyed the rest of the country, I think our friends in the capital must be feeling like surely the market conditions have bottomed out and it's got to get better from here. But we'll see what our man on the ground, Mark Smith, has to say about the mood in Wellington later on in the show. Let's take a look at some of the jobs on offer this week. Okay, so first up for our temp and contracting role, we have an outbound sales rep role. This one's based in the North Shore in Auckland, paying around that $26.44 per hour plus your usual holiday pay, etc. For this one, it's following up on warm leads. So it's a mix of customer service, but you need to be comfortable in asking those sales questions as well. And all around following up on leads and being able to book in appointments into clinics. If you're interested in this and available for work in the North Shore, get in touch with Kirsty to find out more about this opportunity. And for the permanent role, this one's also out of Auckland, Mount Wellington to be precise. So it's an operations assistant. For this one, it's working with a major client of ours. So it's really about the opportunity to work with a global company within the healthcare and medical technology sector. So if you're looking for a start and really want to work with an interesting company, have a chat with Scott to find out more about this opportunity and others with Striker. And let's take a look at our jobs overseas. Okay, as always, a mix of different roles that are available across our branches across Australia and the UK. So we've got an admin officer, a temp role based in Brisbane, customer service officer, this one's in Adelaide, looks like a permanent role there, and an HR generalist in the UK, looks like a temp or contract role. As always, get in touch with the team here to be able to find out more about these opportunities and how we can connect you with our fabulous teams across Australia and the UK. Now, thanks for joining us today, Mark. I know you're used to hosting these things, but you've got to share the love around. Speaking of love, we wanted to give some love out to Wellington, who's been really battling it hard. What's your feeling? You've been in Wellington for around 3 months now. What have you noticed about the feeling and also some of the specific challenges in Wellington?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I sort of miss being in the control of these broadcasts, Shannon, but I'm back on the tools, excuse me, here in Wellington, and very much on the desk working with job seekers and clients trying to find the best talent. And so what's it like? Well, the word that we've been using to describe the market in Wellington, or for most of the 3 or 4 months that I've been here, has been brutal. I've been in the recruitment industry for 30 years, and this is one of the most difficult markets that I've had to work in. So it's not easy. I think generally there's been a little bit of shell shock. The market has been good for a while, and opportunities ever present for many job seekers in Wellington over the last few years. But really, more recently, it is difficult, and some people are finding it hard to come to terms with that. From a client perspective, though, I would suggest that it is. Now, I am hesitating here because I don't want to jinx it, because I think we are at the bottom of the market. I think we're actually there. We've passed.
Surely we must be. It's got to get better, right?
Well, I mean, having the fact that you've actually, that's what makes this particular cycle the most interesting. So this is the 5th cycle that I've worked through in terms of the employment market. And what I mean is, so from a boom down to the worst of times. And this is the 5th time that I've been at the bottom of the market. And this one, what makes this one particularly unique is the length of time. So, and I suppose in recent corporate memory too. So what I mean by that is that we saw the turn in the market here in Wellington and in New Zealand generally around the middle of last year. So May, June was when we started to see the turn. And so we are now well past that. We're into like the 17th month or something of the downturn. So if you think back to, say, the COVID recession, there was the announcement, the sharp decline, and then the sharp return to really good times very quickly. And then if we went back to the previous cycle, so to the GFC, there was the 2008 stock market crash in October, and then we saw the decline in the market, and basically contracting was out for 6 months, permanent recruitment out for a year. We are well past that, and we are still now just hitting the bottom. So what's different about this cycle is the fact that we're slow in, and I'm expecting that we're going to be slow out. So most of the time I'm out talking to clients now just in anticipation of a turn in the market, and I've been asking them this question: when do you think there will be a normalization in the jobs market in Wellington? And the worst prediction is that it would be the second half of 25. The most optimistic was October. That's clearly not going to happen. The consensus seems to be that it will be March 25. So people come back from holidays and there'll be a more normalisation of the job market in the first quarter of next year. So given that, the economy and the market is just humans, if all of us humans believe that that's when it's going to turn, then I'm expecting that's when it will. But I was really upbeat this morning, or yesterday really, about the sort of the numbers that came out in the Herald about the confidence, the business confidence numbers, the highest that it's been since 2016. And I thought, wow, that's quite good. But I'm in Wellington. I'm not in the rest of New Zealand. And Wellington has the thing that's worst is the fact that it is the capital and it has a lot of government enterprises and or departments or ministries here in Wellington. So that, are we going to be affected differently? Is the mood going to be different from the rest of the country? I really don't have a straight answer for that, but given that everyone I ask says that it's going to turn next year, I'm expecting that's when it will. Because, sorry, I feel like I'm talking too much, but the last thing I'll leave this on is that everyone seems to talk, and you mentioned in the Mahi Media for Wellington that the number of public sector jobs that have disappeared is close to 7,000. Yeah, and so, but 7,000 out of a total workforce of 3.7 million is not huge statistically. But what it does do is it affects the confidence. So at the moment, there's an inertia in the jobs market in Wellington. People they've been frightened. There's a lot of consultation still happening, a lot of restructuring still happening. The processes are not complete. So therefore, people are still uncertain and they're not willing to change jobs. They don't have that confidence. But when they do feel confident and all of the changes have pretty much been implemented, then we will see a return to people feeling like, well, maybe I can take a look in the market. I'm actually going to go out there now and see if there's a new job for me. And that's when the inertia will change and the jobs market will start to move again, because it's not about the absolute number of positions in the public sector. It's about people feeling comfortable enough to change jobs and to start to move around again. And that's when opportunities will be created for people.
Well, I don't think you've seen the whole walkthrough for today's shows, but you've actually guessed one of the questions. So we've been thinking about that as well, on how things will change. And you're right. We've found that definitely for job seekers and employees, that stability is absolutely number one right now. But that's not going to last forever. So I think that will be even more important as businesses and organizations make those decisions around possible restructures and then rehiring, that they get that right, and also that they're doing right by their employees as well, because they'll be quick to look elsewhere once things start to pick up. So yeah, I guess in an uncertain market like this, some employers might be feeling panicked or nervous about some of those hiring decisions. What are some of the implications of that, of making a rushed decision or a poor decision that can affect the company's long-term success?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. Firstly, if you're an employer and you're sitting there going, right, I need to get this sorted before Christmas, or I'm going to wait until the market is better, or I just need to make sure that, that things have turned completely before I go out to hire. Basically, there's a couple of things. One, if you make a bad hire, it will have long-term consequences inside your business. So the costs will not only be financial, but intangible, that may have a financial consequence, changes in culture, in your business, etc. So if you make the wrong hire, if you're too slow to make a hire, so that you're starting to see the market turn and you think, do I go now or do I go later, then you may miss out on talent. So one of the things I have noticed is that the quality of talent that is available right now in Wellington is fantastic. So if you have the capacity to hire now, I would go to market, and then because you normally, when you're an employer or a hiring manager, you might have your must-haves and then your nice-to-haves. You might have a list of those. You might be at the moment you are way into your nice-to-haves because you can actually secure that talent right now. So so there's an advantage to actually going now. Just one last thing I would say, and this is mainly from a job seeker perspective, and I was having this conversation earlier today, that a lot of the government enterprises and ministries, etc., have a closing date for their vacancies. So a lot of job seekers think, oh, well, I've got till the 10th of October to apply. The number of people who are applying now is it's amazing. The number of people. I think the average in New Zealand is 600 or something applying for jobs. It's huge. What I'm saying here is that if you see something that you like and you think, oh, I'll just apply in the next couple of days, don't, because you will be way down the list. Talent acquisition people and recruiters are being inundated. They've been drowning in the number of applications. So you want to get in quick and get in early. So if you see something, apply straight away because you may be far too down the list. Now that's me being a little bit cynical there, because I know that some talent acquisition people say, well, I review all applications equally, but if you've got 600 and you've already had 100 there, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Whether you're internal or external, there's going to be there's pressures on us, the recruiters, to be able to fill that vacancy if we've got one, to be able to fill it and fill it quickly as well. So, if you've managed to find 3 or 4 good candidates through that mix, you're going to want to action those. So the job may still be open, as you say, but your chances get less and less the further down that list of applicants goes.
There's one last thing I just mention about for employers about the consequences in this type of market, and we've had this experience more recently, particularly less from the government, but from private sector employers who think I can get a bargain. I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to pay as much, or I'm going to discount the salary that I'm going to pay, and I'm not going to. That sort of thinking has you might get a candidate to accept a salary that is lower than what you've been paying previously now. Sure, you might be able to do that. But do you think when the market turns, and it will, and it always does, having lived through this 5 times, do you think that person will stay? Do you think that you'll be able to maintain that salary level? Or do you think that you're going to have some turnover and then you're going to be in a situation where you can't access the talent when the market does turn? So be sensible, pay the market. Don't try and get sort of bargains and reduce. We've had that happen several times for both contractors and for permanent salaries, for permanent jobs that we're recruiting, where private sector organisations seem to feel that, I think it's possible, I'm going to pay less. Don't do that. It's in the long run, you will be. It'll cost you a lot more than the few $1,000s you'll save.
Yep, definitely comes around to bite you. All right, let's end with, what are your predictions? Always like to get the magic 8 ball out. What are your predictions for how the hiring landscape in New Zealand will evolve in the next year?
I think that, so the 3 things that I would say here. Firstly, it's not going to be a rapid return to the norm, okay, to what people believe it. So, or the people who are Gen Z, who've only lived in a market where it's like easy to get jobs, it's not going to be a rapid return to that circumstance. It just won't. The world has moved on. So that's the first thing I would say. So it's going to be a slow return to a normality, but the next normality will be quite different. The second thing that I think is a trend will be the work from home trend. The more nuanced debate about benefits. That is going to be the Prime Minister came out the other day and said people have got to come back in the office, and I visited a company this morning that said you can work from home, but only Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That hot topic will remain a hot topic and an area of contention. And I wouldn't be surprised if some organisations force people back into the office just so that it can drop staff numbers a little bit Amazon have done that recently. The CEO came out and said everyone's got to come back in. I think that's sort of a hidden agenda there somewhere along the lines. That's an aside. So that's the second thing. The last thing I would say.
That's the second cynical comment today.
Yeah,
What's happened to you?
I've moved to Wellington. The last thing I would say is, and it's in relation to salaries. I think there will be a moderation on salaries and back to more of a 3 to 4% increase on salaries. I just can't see that being a huge change. But overall, a more normal market, the new normal, next year, probably the middle of next year. So fingers crossed anyway. So I'm quite optimistic, really, even for Wellington. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your insights there. Let's take a look at these social media polls. Okay, so of course we were talking about the mandates for return to office, and we asked if you'd consider looking for a new job if this was forced upon you. Well, over half of you said yes, absolutely. Tempered out, well, yeah, of course, it depends on a few things, but I think that's a pretty resounding response there to the mood of the nation. So, yes, it will be very interesting to see as this debate continues to play out over the next year or so. And let's take a look at this week's question. So, maybe Mark's prediction skills are on the money. So once the New Zealand job market bounces back, what's your plan? Will you stay in your current job? Have they treated you well? First chance, are you going to look for a new job? Or, well, it really depends. So, as always, it'll be interesting to see the results there. And please share your comments and experiences as well. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for joining us again, and we'll see you again next week.